And Ben, perhaps you could just tell everyone what church you come from.
Yeah, I'm the vicar of Holy Innocents Church in North London in Haringey, and I've been there for 4 years.
Great. And so you've been hosting for several years now. What led you to become a host in the first place?
It was my friend Jack, actually. He was a clergy host, and just as he was kind of getting into it, he wanted me to do it as well. But at the time I lived in a 2-bedroom flat, and although I could see the kind of gospel imperative to do it, I also wanted my mum to come and stay sometimes. But when I moved into an almost immoral 4-bedroom vicarage, I thought, well, I haven't got any choice now, have I? So I contacted Housing Justice and got involved, and I'm really pleased I did.
Brilliant. And your mum can still stay now?
My mum can still stay, it's fine, yeah.
Was there anything that you had reservations about before you started hosting?
I guess I was, generally it's quite a nerve-wracking thing to let somebody into your house, and just to know what it's going to be like. But they weren't exactly reservations, it was just kind of, oh, I'm doing this now, let's see how it's going to be.
And how did that change as you started hosting?
So one thing is, the matching meetings are really helpful and really, they feel really free. So first you meet the guest in a cafe, so away from your house, and you just see, what the chemistry is. I remember one matching meeting, the person said, "Oh, I know you, I stayed in a night shelter in your church," which was, and he did actually end up staying in my house, which was great. But I guess you have that opportunity then, if you happen to know somebody, or if you just didn't feel the chemistry was right, you could say no. Then there's a really good interview where just the, what it would be like to live with you is kind of made clear to the guest and to you. So for example, I guess there are some hosts who are really happy to cook for their guests every night. That's not something I can do because I'm not home every night. I'm out off doing everywhere. So to have a guest who would be happy to cook for themselves, and that's something that gets sorted out. And there's a lot of time, a lot of space to make sure you're happy and that the process is going to work, which is really important. And thanks to Eleanor for that.
Brilliant. And could you say a little bit about what hosting's been like for you personally? So how's it affected your day-to-day life?
Well, sometimes it means there's a bit of a longer queue for the bathroom, I suppose. It's been great, actually. I've had 3 guests. The first guest was housed, was given refugee status in 10 days. There's this kind of horrendous process when they get refugee status where a car comes and picks them up and they don't know where they're going until that morning. And that was actually quite hard, I think, certainly for him, but also just he went to Plymouth in the end, which is a kind of a long way away. And then I had a wonderful guest for about 3 years, Jamal, who finally got refugee status, and we've really become friends. He took me to all the Eritrean restaurants in North London, and I learned how to cook with injera, which is kind of Eritrean pancake. But just really lovely to spend time with him, and equally so for my current guest Joshua. So it's really nice, kind of the time we spend together, and as you say, the kind of intercultural learning and all of that.
Have there been any challenges?
Yeah, I think not like really big major challenges, but I think living together is something that takes a bit of work, takes a bit of attention, takes a bit of love, and that's sometimes been challenging, but not in a bad way, in a good way.
Yeah. And what impact has hosting had on you, do you think?
I want to say, in one way, very little impact, in the sense that it's a wonderful thing to do. I'm really glad I can provide a room for somebody, it doesn't take up loads of time, it doesn't take up loads of energy. And I want to say that as a kind of encouragement to those of you who might be thinking, what the hell am I taking on? Because really, it's just having a housemate, really, and that's been great. And I guess the impact it's had on me is I've made some new friends, which has been really good.
And I don't know if you're able to say, but if you are, what impact do you feel it's had on your guests?
Well, I suppose the primary impact is a practical one. They've had somewhere safe and stable to stay. Like my current guest was going around night shelters. I mean, my church hosts a night shelter, and I'm painfully aware of, in some ways, what an inadequate service it is. Like the guests have to go out during the day in the cold, and some of them spend the whole day going around on buses just to keep warm. They have to move each night to a different place. Night shelters can be warm and supportive environments, but just to have the same bed to come back to, a place to be there during the day is massive. And then I guess there's all the things about being able to access healthcare and having an address which enables you. One of my guests is hoping to be reunited with his wife, who he's been separated from for 20 years, something like that. And it's having that stability that's enabled that process to happen. So just at a purely practical level, it has a really big impact. Also, you'd have to ask them, but I hope I'm a warm and nice person who is able to just be there when they need somebody to talk to or whatever.
And just final question, what would you say to other clergy, or anyone really, it doesn't have to be clergy who want to be hosted, but what would you say to them if they were considering hosting?
I'd say do it. And if you feel like it hasn't gone well, the support is there for another placement to be found for the guests. If you want to back out at any time during the process, it's very easy to do so. No pressure is really put on you. So why not, register an interest and see what happens? That's what I'd say.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you